You're going to Hollywood, or maybe you live right here in the City of Angels. And Cousin Kathy, her husband Harold, and their twins are visiting for their vacation. Yeah, the twins who still take selfies of their boogers. Apparently it's a fortnight thing you wouldn't understand. But you gotta play tour guide. Maybe you're a local who wants to see what all the fuss is about. I sense a Hollywood tour in your future. Let me ask you, though, that walking or bus tour you're about to hire, can they distinguish between facts, rumors, and lies? How does she know Idris Elba once shared a free-range latte with Samantha Bee right next to that palm tree? Yeah, the one right there. Look, does your Hollywood tour even have a bibliography? Was your tour guide ever in the Hollywood Reporter, a hand double for Nicolas Cage, or ruled a celebrity by a federal judge? Did your tour guide ever write lines Hank Azaria spoke on camera for an NBC primetime sitcom? Does your Hollywood tour guide have a podcast, an IMDb, or teeth? These are just a few of the questions you should ask before you hire any Hollywood tour guide. There are at least 17. For the full list of questions you must ask your Hollywood tour guide before you spend a dime, go to MarkRomanEmpire.com and click Tour Questions. You're nobody till somebody loves you. Spreading the news like mayonnaise on toast. The policy of truth. Gary, I have a mission for you. Eastbound and down, loading up and truck 'em. Hooks capacitor? Okay. But let me tell you about that time I drove a cab. Money that's something, chicks that read. I want my Mark TV. First, you're not on TV. Podcast. Now, that is some weird and wild stuff. Did you know that, Ed? Yes! Oh, please don't drop me home, because it's not my home, it's their home, and I'm welcome no more. Well, Robin attended Juilliard. I attended Hillsdale. I'm a graduate of the San Francisco Comedy College. I've traveled the Midwest quite extensively. I lived through The Big Short and I had a pretty good time doing that. I've seen Pat Robertson jabber about 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it. Not to mention the fact you're talking to a subversive. So what do you think? Do you think I'm qualified?
Oh, well, I think we'll need to pray about that and ask your father.
Shut up, Marilyn! Just eat it. Just eat it. The Mark Roman Empire. Also, a podcast. It's showtime. I'm all right. Nobody worry about me. Why you gotta give me a fight? Can't you just let it be? Do what you like. Doing it naturally. But if it's too easy, they're gonna disagree. All right, that was my slightly labored markioke of I'm All Right by Kenny Loggins, the first song on my Action Lieutenant Frank playlist, and that song all us cool kids enjoyed from the film Caddyshack, 'cause it's springtime, and all my fresh sneezing means freshly cut greens, not just at the golf course. Hey, there's plenty of super bloom California poppies for caring Instagrammers to trample. That's okay, 'cause I'm all right. I'm back from another hiatus. I know. Look, hey, I am not swimming in MMA and Fear Factor money now, am I? The jalopy that is this podcast has even Archie and Jughead scratching their heads. Good night, Luke Perry, sweet prince. Hey, on a happier note, I've got more haha people for you today. I may not influence the set list at the Comedy Store, but I can choose who to interview on my podcast. And since all three of the comedians so far, Corey, Sammy, Granison, sounds like dudes, it's certainly well past time to have a lady comedian on. Because you don't have to have a dick to tell dick jokes. I mean, I'm right? I'm right about that. Sorry, Christopher Hitchens. So first up at bat, stand-up comedian Madison Shepard. Oh, hi there. I'm Mark Roman. Mark who? Mark Roman. You know, like the Empire. Interview with Madison in a moment. Hey, we're recording episode 20. We got up to the big 2-0. And we're doing it at the world-famous Musicians Institute right here in Hollywood on Hollywood Boulevard, carefully nestled between a Tom Cruise Scientology hostel and some leftover drunks from St. Patrick's Day still making their way home. Don't rush them. They have a process. We are safely within stumbling distance of the legendary Pig and Whistle, as well as Jameson's Irish Pub, where everyone knows Lieutenant Frank's name. Ollie, as ever, on the sound. And hey, okay, Ollie, is this true? I heard is next week your quinceañera, your special birthday? It was a little off of mic. He said yes. We got a positive, affirmative confirmation there. Well, no Ollie. You know what that means? No podcast next week. I know. We just came off ahead. It's going to be all right. I'll be back. It's going to be okay. Do your breathing like we discussed. It's going to be all right. Yeah. And if enough people hire Lieutenant Frank, buy an autographed poem, or use my code to try Cash App, we will definitely be back in 2 weeks. I mean, we got to give Oliver a moment to recover from his festivities. I hope I can. I don't think I can call him Oliver. You may never hear this. That might have just been the death knell of the podcast. Oh, boy. Well, it was fun while it lasted. At least we got through the teens, right? Oh, boy. Okay. Hey, I did the gym Monday. I was so going to do it today, but, you know, I haven't been doing the podcast in a few weeks, so it's like my patterns, routines, like I'm not quite there. So didn't do it today. I hit running last week for the first time in a while because it's been raining. What's that all about? It's crazy. Hopefully I can hit the gym one more time this week. My goal is you guys are holding me accountable here. Okay. You're my workout buddies. You're my accountability partners. My podcast listening friends. My friend. I'm working a show yesterday in background. I know. But it still means something. And it's always funny when the ADs or the PAs refer to us. Okay, now our background friends, if we can have you come over here. I like it. Who doesn't want to be a friend, right? Or have friends? Don't answer that. Wait, why was I on hiatus? Well, for those of you that didn't listen to the episode right after the last hiatus, I had to work a few TV acting gigs. Like I mentioned, just one yesterday. What TV, you might ask? Hey, loose lips sink ships and spoil plots. So stay tuned to my IMDb, imdb.com. Type in Mark Roman. You'll find it. I think it's the second one down. You'll see my picture. It'll show up there, okay? Don't worry, or I'll tell you. But I'm not gonna tell you now because it's premature. Yeah, not yet. It's not. It's gotta rise. There's a process. Yeah. What else do I need to tell you? Should I tell you that it does cost me money to put this podcast together? I mean, I could sit on my bed and talk into my iPhone. I mean, and people do. Nobody stops them, clearly. But I feel like you want to hear some quality audio. So that I got to pay money for a good guy
like Ollie to do that. So there's other things too for you to like to hear it on these different platforms. Like there's expenses, okay? And that's been subsidized by my work as a working artist. So it's been the first few months of the year is always super slow with busking, which has had a lion's share. I'm starting to do more acting, but I'm just letting you know, kids, like I'm throwing this together like MacGyver with bubble gum and toothpaste and baling wire and, noir leather. And I think we went off on a bad path here, but you get the point, all right? So help me out and I can get you more podcasts is what I'm trying to say. If you like it. If you don't like it, I understand. That's okay. We are on Instagram, Vegas 90210 for the character, Mark Roman Empire for the podcast. But Vegas 90210 on the Instagram, you should check it out because we got Paunch on Lieutenant Frank where he says, it's a good look about Lieutenant Frank. That's on the 13th of February. There's also the first version of the Lieutenant Frank uniform that was posted on the 21st of February. Lieutenant Frank spreading the news with the LAPD. That was on the Oscars day, the 24th of February. Cap was on CBS LA, and I had some reaction to it. He was seen, not heard. That was on the 1st of March. Lieutenant Frank spreading the news with Lieutenant Dangle, the original one. Tom Lennon himself, the original photo back in the Vegas days. That's on the 3rd of March. Lieutenant Frank with CHP Equestrian Division. That's the 5th of March. And Lieutenant Frank and the Hollywood Reporter, callback to 2016. That was on the 13th of March. So a bunch of cool stuff to check out at Vegas 90210 on the Instagram. Captain Marvel. According to Deadline Hollywood today, Captain Marvel soaring to 800 million plus worldwide today. It beat Deadpool. That's right. A girl beat Deadpool. And Deadpool 2. Overseas, Captain Marvel has topped X-Men Days of Future Past. And it's claimed now the number 14 international superhero title of all times. It's insane. Forbes. The headline on the 18th of March, yep, Captain Marvel is definitely going to top $1 billion worldwide and is on track to sell more tickets globally than Wonder Woman by today or tomorrow. Long overdue. I'm so excited, so happy. It's funny because I started out as a big DC guy as a kid, loved Batman. But, happened to do this Captain America busking cosplay gig a few years ago. And the Marvel, the MCU's kind of grown on me. And especially last year, Black Panther and Infinity War. I don't know, I've just been really looking forward to Captain Marvel. And she did not disappoint. It's been awesome! And now we got Endgame coming up. That's going to be awesome, too. But I'm just really happy for all that the success of Captain Marvel is doing, which brings me to female comics. From time to time, I'll notice the set list that places like the Comedy Store, which was started by Mitzi Shore, a lady, and there's one a few weeks back. I looked at it. It was like 14 comics, 3 were women. What the fuck? Like, there's no female comics out there? Like, what's the deal? I don't get it. So what I've realized is that I have power as a podcaster to choose which guests to have on my show. So not only do I need more comics, because we only had 3 so far out of 19. Not that there's anything wrong with everyone else, but it's like I want to balance it out, more comics. And since it's been all dudes, I want to bring on more ladies, which I'm doing today. And I hope to do more so in the future. Hey, I'm also a writer. Did you guys know that? Yeah, I write. I'm on Medium. So if you go to medium.com, look up Mark Roman Empire. Since the last podcast, I've written a few articles. Maybe you can go read those. That's what I was also doing when I was not doing the podcast here. You can read Meet the Cap of Will and Grace. You can read 2 Captains, a Senator Walk into a Bar. And also, Buskers Do Not Matter. And yes, that was a reaction to how CBS LA had my Captain America seen and not heard. Read the article for more info. This podcast got swag. And now a new online swag store. That's right. Whether you're looking for an autographed photo of Lieutenant Frank posing on that Hollywood hydrant, an autographed copy of my poem, Son of Elmer Gantry's Bitch, or a personalized copy of the iconic Lieutenant Frank citation, you can now purchase any or all of them at my new swag store. Just go to MarkRomanEmpire.com and click swag. Not sure what to buy, but still want to support the podcast now? Of course you do. Hey, consider Mark Roman Empire gift cards, also in the swag store. We don't have t-shirts or stickers quite yet. When we do, you can use the gift cards to buy them. That's how the gift cards give you more value than a donation. Although, hey, donations are certainly welcome. For all current and future Mark Roman, Lieutenant Frank, and podcast swag, go to MarkRomanEmpire.com and click swag. Thanks for listening and supporting. $5. It could be yours. Want $5? While supporting this podcast? Try Cash App. I did. So did a fellow actor I met on set yesterday. She simply linked a debit card, then sent at least $5 via Cash App. Instantly, $5 was added to her Cash App account and to mine. Thanks, Cash App. Use my code WKXRVBX to support me and earn your $5. One of my favorite things with Cash App, besides the fact it works like a firewall for my bank and credit cards, is the boosts. Pretty groovy feature, those boosts. Whenever I catch a ride with Lyft and pay with the cool black debit card Cash App sent me, I save 10%. Apparently, I can save with Cash App boosts at Whole Foods, Domino's Pizza, and any coffee shop as well. There's a list of boost choices. Hey, I get it. You've heard about Cash App on other podcasts. You know the ones. The ones with all the MMA and Fear Factor money. Look, a dude driving a high-end sports car to do a set at the Comedy Store in Hollywood, that dude is not worried about how to pay for his next podcast. I am. Why do you think I go on hiatus every so often? So use my code WKXRVBX to support me and earn your $5 with Cash App, available in your app store. Guys, Venka still needs our help. On her GoFundMe to date, she's raised $4,510 of the $50,000 she needs. She's done that through 49 people over the last 6 months. Will of Will and Grace, they're both homeless. He's only raised $10 of the $25,000 he needs, and that's by one person over the last 2 months. Now, Venka's Social Security hearing, apparently the award decision is today. I'm waiting to hear from her about how that went. But she will definitely have to refund all of the GoFundMe money that she's earned just to survive up to this point. So even if she gets it, she still needs our help. Will definitely needs our help. Even $5 from you guys right now makes a huge difference for Venka and Will. The only homeless I talk about a little bit, my latest or a recent article on Medium, Meet the Cap of Will and Grace. Check that out. But hero tier for Will and Grace, a.k.a. Will and Venka. Just go to MarkRomanEmpire.com and click Venka for more information and also ways to help and to donate. So, let me just tell you, there's a cool new podcast, all right? For my friend Veronica Porras. She has on SoundCloud. It's called Pour Asterisk Ass, Por Asterisk ASS. And it's pretty cool. You should check it out. I've just listened to the first part of the first episode where she interviews her brother, and they talk about what it's like to go from the San Francisco Bay Area to Portland and why. Brody Stevens. For those of you who don't know, maybe weren't in the comedy community or we're not a fan of Brody, he'd done some stuff. He was close to Zach Galifianakis. He was in The Hangover, a couple of Hangover movies. But he was, for anyone that's involved with the Los Angeles comedy scene, a very well-known fixture. The kind that you take for granted. And we lost him. It was a suicide. There was mental health issues that Brody had been very upfront about, and his struggles with it. I didn't know him, and I've been busy in the acting and busking world last several years, so I haven't been as involved in the comedy scene as I'd like to. So I never got to like rub elbows or jump off a stage and see him go on like a lot of my friends have. But it hurts. It still hurts to lose anyone in the tribe, whether it's a performer, an actor, a comic. It's even harder still, too. I have my own health challenges, including mental health challenges, struggles with depression. And it's still, in 2019, it's a super taboo topic, even though we like to pretend it's not. We like to pretend that we're doing something about it. But all I have to do is go out on Hollywood Boulevard and see the enduring legacy of former Governor Ronald Reagan when he thought that mental health hospitals were a bad idea, and so he cut their funding. And we continue to reap the harvest of that fateful decision. I got to see on YouTube, I didn't get to go to there's kind of an industry-only memorial for Brody at the Comedy Store about a week ago or so. I got to see what Zach said, and it was it's hard, man. It's tough when we lose people like this. You want to think that you did all you could to reach out to people that are hurting, and it's tough. We see people are hurting all the time, but we're consumed our own lives, and often for good reasons. We have our own family, friends, children, people that depend on us, and we're following a schedule of our day to follow through on those commitments, those people that we care about. And sometimes that doesn't allow us enough bandwidth to help other people hurting. But sometimes we do have the bandwidth. And sometimes we don't recognize that people in our lives are desperately trying to talk to us and tell us that they have a problem and they need help, and they took a risk to reach out to us in their own awkward, feeble, fumbling way to let us know that, hey, I feel like you're a friend, and I feel like I can trust you and say, I'm overwhelmed. I need help. And I guess maybe something we can all do is just find a way where we can better recognize the Brody Stevens that are still with us and how we can help. There's no easy answers, but it's something that means a lot to me, and I'm not surprised that someone like Brody Stevens, with the struggles that he had, didn't get enough of the help that he needed from very well-meaning people in his life. It's a really important conversation that is a civilization, if we like to think of ourselves that highly, we need to have a better conversation about it, because we just lost Brody Stevens. Anyway, not to be a downer, hey, you can write me at romanpodmail@gmail.com, and you can listen to the podcast. We are on Apple Podcasts now, as well as Mixcloud, Podbean, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube, where we are Mark Roman Empire. On SoundCloud, look up Mark Roman podcast. If you go to MarkRomanEmpire.com, that has all the links, plus rolling new grooviness. On Instagram, Mark Roman Empire. Hey, my interview guest today is stand-up comedian Madison Shepard. And like Grandison Crawford, he was in the last episode 19, I'm meeting her for the first time in person in this interview. The way I met Madison, talked about the Comedy Store, that set list that they had on social media. I started tweeting about more women comics that I'd like to see on a set list like that at the Comedy Store, and my tweets led to a discovery of more female comics. I tagged a few and said, hey, I'd like to have you on the podcast, and Madison was one of the first to respond. Now, she's open for Maria Bamford, who I love. All right, well, that's all you need to know right there. Boom. Open for Maria Bamford. She also opened for two dudes who look cool, but I've never heard of. They look like they're awesome. One of them looks like they might be Star-Lord with a stage name. Yeah, one of the Guardians of the Galaxy she opened for, apparently. Her mom is also a small-town white lady. According to her Twitter, she is stand-up writer and mulatress. This is what's on her Twitter. I'm quoting her Twitter. Madison, you've seen. She's done comedy on Funny or Die, BuzzFeed, Comedy Central Showcase, Comics to Watch at the Hollywood Improv. Her acting includes Jack on Empty Space, which is now streaming on Amazon. She's also done animation. She wrote the Comedy Central Digital, a couple different productions for that. And she's also a producer, both in screen and also live stage events. You can see her perform stand-up comedy just by going to her website. Some of the ones that pop to my mind are the 28th of March at Carrie's Quinceanera at the Comedy Central stage, and the 9th of April at the Put Your Hands Together at the UCB on Franklin here in the LA. Details for all that and more. I understand she's going to be adding additional and updating it. Just go to themadisonshepard.com. Madison, like it sounds, Shepard, SHEPARD.com. Hey, let's meet Madison Shepard. Madison.
Hi.
We're finally meeting in person.
Hello.
It's kind of like last week because I had Grandison Crawford, who's also a stand-up comic. I don't know if you know Grandison, but I hadn't met him either in person. It was like the first time, like right outside our building. But it's great. I kind of feel like I know you a little bit just from like watching some of your YouTube clips, some of your stand-up.
Yes.
So, which I enjoy very much. I love your, you've got a very strong, specific perspective, which is, well, for any stand-up comics, like you want someone up there that knows what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
I suppose, yeah.
Like, I mean, they've got their opinions and, you know.
Yeah.
They're willing to defend as opposed to, how you guys doing?
Right.
What's going on?
I didn't start stand-up as a young person, so it's probably why. I think when you start later, you have a built-in point of view.
Kind of interesting, because I'm the same way. It's like what, like how deep into adult life did you get before you started doing stand-up?
I was 27 when I started, which is still pretty young. But
no, you're approaching 30 there. You're kind of getting to the point where like, all right, 20s are gonna be over soon.
Yeah, very, very much an adult person. Had been fired, had a major breakup. You know, that kind of
life traumas.
Very much so. Yeah, disappointments, all that. So then you sort of learn what your thoughts are about things. Are you? Is it still? I don't know.
Well, we're still recording right now.
We are recording. Fuck it. Oh, sorry.
No, it's all good.
Just this.
No,
apologies.
Mark Maron likes to do that. You know, where it's like halfway through the podcast and
the
guest is
a
all,
lot of
so
people.
are we? Can you say? Yeah, no, we've been recording for the last like hour and a half. He's like, oh, really? Like like when we had talked about that thing. Yeah, that's in there too.
Got it.
Now, you grew up in, as my character, Lieutenant Frank, would like to say, not merely Texas, but the great nation of Texas.
Yeah.
And I've never
Okay.
been, so I'm really kind of curious.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why haven't you gone to Texas?
It's a fair question. It's
It's easy to get to.
Yeah,
It's in the middle.
this is true. And I've been in the Midwest. I've been on the East Coast. I've been to a lot of southern states. Georgia,
Yeah.
Florida.
Yeah. Why didn't you?
Exactly. If you've been to
Yeah.
Florida, like why?
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, no, Texas is it's an all right place. I mean, I only lived there till I was like 14 and then I moved here.
Okay, that's a good. It's enough to.
Yeah,
have
it's
a
more
sense.
than enough to have lived in Texas. But yeah, it was
So you don't have plans to like
move
have
back.
the spread
The
in
what?
Texas, the spread as your career
Oh.
develops and you're like making real estate portfolio choices and you're like,
No.
yeah, I want to have a.
I don't think so. I mean, maybe, but no, my immediate family is all here. So
Oh,
What's
okay.
the
So they all
point? Yeah.
relocated here.
yeah, I have like a lot of cousins and my uncles and aunt is in Texas. Aunts.
So now where in Texas? Because it's a big place, I'm told.
My family is all over. Outside of Houston, West Texas, Dallas, Austin, all over.
Sounds like it.
Hmm.
I hear good things about Austin.
Yeah, Austin's fine. You know, I like to remind people who want to treat it like this, like liberal haven in the middle of Texas, that it's still the state capital, and that's where they make the evil anti-woman, hateful,
Oh, Austin is the capital.
xenophobic,
I didn't realize that.
terrible policies and laws.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah,
Interesting.
you know, it's nice right around the university, and then it gets a little bit like got to take it block by block a little bit as if it's like a decent place or not.
When you get to the local government buildings, the courthouse,
It's like, ooh,
what's going on there?
yeah.
Who's do you pay attention to what's going on in Texas much above and beyond?
Some. I mean, like I have a lot of my family is there, but
Okay.
yeah, I couldn't tell you what's happening politically in Texas right now,
Fair enough.
other than like we have some.
Beto O'Rourke's from Texas. isn't
Correct.
he?
Yeah. He's from Texas. Yeah.
Because that's what we need is another white guy. Yeah. That'll make it better.
I am gonna refrain from making a judgment on any of the Democratic candidates until we have more information.
That seems like a wise, adult, mature,
I'm
right?
not gonna choose anyone until we get closer, and likely I'll vote with the party anyway, so it doesn't matter
Yeah.
unless it was like horrendous choice being made. But
Right. It's the practical, political, long term. I mean,
yeah,
It's funny because I grew up very, very conservative, religiously and politically. Very much like a Reagan Republican.
oh wow,
And now I'm a bleeding heart liberal living in Hollywood,
Holly
card-carrying
weird.
member of the Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
So it's like,
you just made a full flip.
yeah, like everything that I was raised with. I too had a small town white mom. Tell me about yours.
Well, I mean, my mom she's many things. She's here now. Yeah, she's was a playwright and an
really?
actor. My parents met doing a show together. So I was actually raised in the theater scene in Dallas as a kid.
Oh, cool.
She had like a play go off Broadway when I was a kid. So we went to New York a bunch. She was an artist and somebody who also like had zero support. So she really did the best that she could, which, is fine. She's a really good lady though. Yeah.
So you really had a lot of experience and exposure to the industry, one could say.
I mean,
growing up.
it's Dallas theater. I don't know how much, but yeah, I guess.
More so than someone
who didn't have a parent who was an artist, I guess.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mine weren't. I wasn't even exposed to really any of it until like my 30s.
Wow.
Yeah. So
What changed your mind, I guess?
geopolitical events, The Big Short, you know, kind of overcoming a lot of childhood baggage and realizing I could finally just be me and realizing like what that is. And
Yeah.
when you grow up and, you know, people place, you know, ways of living on you and you feel that you're supposed to follow that to please.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the process of like pulling that off and then actually going, well, what do I want to do finally? And like giving yourself permission to do that.
Yeah, that's huge.
Which I get is kind of weird for a dude who looks like me to like struggle with that. But I think it's a human thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's particular to any one group to have to figure out who they are. I think there's a moment when we all kind of have to shed the identity that our family and society put on us and just
It's pretty powerful.
be who we are.
Right?
Yeah. I don't think that's specific to anybody. I think that's all of us. Some people never do it. Some people do it in their 70s.
Right.
Some people do it at 5. Some people, however they get there, hopefully they get there. Some folks never do.
Now, do you find what you do as a stand-up comic is it something that you prefer to do, like to do, or is it something that you have to do?
Oh, I don't like it. I fucking hate it mostly. I mean, it's very difficult. It's a hard thing to do.
So why do you do it? What's the motivation, I guess, is the...
Well, I mean, I'm joking when I say I don't like it. It's trash. But I mean, I do enjoy it, ultimately. I think what drives me is just like a need to be heard and to change hearts and minds, so to speak, through humor without being like overly
didactic.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm not like an activist in my work,
right.
But I do talk about things that are, you know, about gender, about race, about class. All of those things are in my stories that I tell on stage, without having to tell you I'm a feminist, without having to be like I'm a Democrat, without having to be like I believe this and that and this. I don't have to, because you know.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, comedy is just like something that, you know, it's addictive. You know, even
it is like your drug, isn't it?
It is like a drug. Have you done stand up before?
I have. I started really early, like 10 years ago in the Bay Area.
Okay.
But the farthest I got, I opened for Lisa Landry.
Okay. I don't think I know who that is, unfortunately.
I think she's in Vegas now.
Okay.
She was a working touring comic, you know.
Does she still do comedy?
In Vegas, yeah. I mean, she's not like a huge name, but
there's working
she's
comics.
performed at, you know, like the Comedy Store, the Improv.
That's great.
So
I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of comics. Not most comics are not household names.
Well, like,
you know?
the 3 people I read that you opened for, there's 2 dudes who I'd never heard of.
Yes.
But then I like did a little investigation and like of nanoseconds. And one guy, I'm like, okay, he looks legit. The other guy, I immediately thinking, holy crap. Of course, Star-Lord is a stand-up comic. I think you know who I'm talking about.
No, who's Star-Lord?
From
Colin
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh.
This dude's page just screamed like,
yeah.
that character.
Yeah, Colin's
cracked me up.
Colin does like a lot of acting stuff too. I think like a lot of people
I can tell.
like he has like actor vibes, you know.
Sure.
But yeah.
But then there's Maria Bamford. And she just jumps off the page. I'm like, I know Maria.
Yes.
Like, I don't personally know her, but like I know of her. I love her work. And then I'm like, from what I've seen of your comedy, I'm like, that is such a sweet and sour yin and yang opposites. I'm like,
yeah.
So I think that's just awesome.
The people that she asked to open for her are usually, aside from Jackie Cation, who opens for her a lot on the road, it's usually like when she's in town in LA or, you know, a couple hours outside of LA, she usually chooses folks who are like, less than 10 years in, people of color, queer, a lot of women, who are very different from her, you know? And I think there's a lot of reasons why she does that, but thank God somebody is, you know? Like there's several people who are very similar to me in age and comedy, and sensibility, who have that Maria Bamford credit as her opener. and it opens doors. It makes people take you seriously because it's like, yes, I have opened for Maria Bamford.
That's
and
so
it's like
awesome.
such a gift, you know? So I think that's why she does it. I don't think she hasn't asked me back to open for her in like 3 years, but I think she does that to like be nice. I don't know. I mean, obviously she thought it was funny, but anyways.
Yeah, I don't think she would have booked
She definitely
you if you
wouldn't
weren't.
have. Yeah, she wouldn't have asked if she didn't think that.
Yeah. It's like, well, it's funny because the way we met and that you're here is because I literally a few weeks ago was looking at, well, first I always get all excited about Captain Marvel because one of the other things I do, work as a busker. And I'm mostly known for my Lieutenant Frank character, which I have a lot of control over what that character does and says. It's kind of like Don Rickles in a silly costume. I can just like improv off of people and I love it. But an alternative when I feel like I want to wear pants and it's a lot lower energy and to say my voice, I do Captain America.
Okay.
Which, you know, I grew up being this big DC guy loving Batman, but, you know, I've grown to like love the whole Marvel universe. So, you know, really got into it last year with Black Panther and with Infinity War. So like looking towards Captain Marvel, I was like getting really excited. And of course, that means a whole lot in a lot of the same ways that Black Panther and also Wonder Woman meant, you know, some changes in how large blockbuster movies were being made. So couple that with being someone who has a history of stand-up comedy, got sucked into acting to answer your earlier question, and really like I'm jonesing to get back into it. Like I've, you know, effectively been doing what a lot of people do on stage in front of like 20 other comedians that wish they had stage time at open mics, doing my Lieutenant Frank character with complete strangers in the public or at tailgates or football games, stuff like that. But, you know, that's a different venue. Like I really would love to get back on stage. And I'm looking at, so I'm paying attention, you know, a lot of my, you know, comedians I look to that like Maria, I heard on Mark Maron's What the Fuck podcast. Bill Burr is like the adopted older brother that I've never met, you know, and I get angry with, and then I, you know, but I keep going back and I'm like, you know, like today he was all like whining about, you know, people that, you know, think Ocasio-Cortez's taxing the uber wealthy is like a bad thing. And he was just getting viscerally like just angry. The idea of like 70%, clearly acknowledging that it's not on the entire income. It's on like, you know, keep your first 10 million. After that, this is the new rate type thing. Yeah. He got that, but he was just so angry. And I feel like, because the timing of it just seemed like maybe some stuff that got stirred up from, you know, with Brody Stevens passing, and he was at the thing at the store a week ago. I don't know. I don't even want to begin to psychoanalyze it, but it was just weird because it was like the angriest I've ever heard him on that issue. And I'm just like, really?
Is he like against taxing the rich?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's because he has a little change in his pocket now.
He does, but it's like, I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah.
Because he'll get angry about stuff because that's part of his thing. But this seemed to go like 7 octaves above and beyond anything I've heard in like a decade. It's weird.
Gerard Carmichael has a joke where he's like, I'm going to misquote it, but essentially like, I'm a Democrat until I start making money and then I'll become a Republican.
Right.
You know, there's something to that. I think that once you start to have actual money, you might think differently about some of the financial lines that the left takes, and maybe he's moving a little bit right financially. Who knows?
It might be.
But yeah, I mean, high energy in comedy lately.
A lot of stuff going on.
A lot of stuff. We've lost, in the last 6 months, we've lost so many people through various ways that people die. Yeah. Suicide, overdose, illness, accidents. It's been a lot. So
it's been a heavy toll. But I'm looking at these, you know, the Comedy Store, will post on their Instagram their set list. And a couple other friends of mine who are female comics have been kind of like observing that and commenting between each other, going like, what the fuck? You know, that's a store that Mitzi built. Like you'll have like a lineup of like 14 people and like 3 are women.
Yeah.
And it's not just a freak thing. They'll be like, you know, the 10 o'clock show on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Which is one of the prime nights of the week. So I got upset with that, and then I saw some things on Twitter, and I just identified, you know, there's some friends of mine that have got booked that I'm looking forward to having on the podcast. Those are the people that I've yet to meet that I'd love to have, and like I'd love to have Maria Bamford on. That'd be awesome. I'd love to have Aisha Tyler on for all kinds of reasons. I'd love to see her host the friggin' Oscars. That would have been cool. So I'm like, hey, you know, I'm thinking I have no control over the Comedy Store or any comedy club who they book, but I got a podcast. I have total control over who I have on my podcast.
Sure, yeah.
So I reached out on Twitter, and I forget all the different threads, but we somehow connected, and then I start looking at your stuff, and I'm like, well, she's awesome. I want to have her on. So, so here you go. But that comes from me, you know, sitting back and thinking, you know, I'm all high and mighty. Like, you know, I'm a good liberal, and I'm progressive and open-minded. But then I look at my own numbers.
Sure.
I've had 3 comics in the first 19 episodes of this podcast. And that right there, I'm like, okay, I need to have more comedians. For a lot of reasons. That's just important to me on the podcast. But then I'm like, okay, who are my 3 comedians? Corey Robinson.
Okay.
Sammy Obeid. Grandison Crawford. All great dudes. So I'm like, what the fuck? So even when you think you're doing the right thing, when you actually sit down and look at it, maybe you're not doing the right thing as much as you.
Yeah, you should shoot for 50-50 because that's the population. You know?
Actually, it's more.
I mean, it fluctuates sometimes.
More, it's like, isn't it like,
by like
is it 51.4?
Yeah, it like changes
54?
From like 49 and like 50, 51, stuff like that. But it's always basically 50-50, you know?
I mean, there's gender's the easy, obvious one, but then there's also, you know, there's racial, there's cultural, there's background. And to me, I just feel like, you know, if you miss any of the diversity of that, you're not, it's not it's not an accurate picture. And if you're trying to tell stories, you know, why cut stuff out that are a vital part of.
Yeah, I mean, diversity is it's great for race, gender, orientation, all of that. But it's also good for like thought and people who don't think like you and come from a different background than you, socioeconomically. And I think a lot of folks forget that. I mean, what I know, I basically I have an idea as to like why the clubs kind of book how they book, but I also don't particularly like care. I still like do my thing. You know what I mean?
That's what I love about you. You're like, a producer. You're not just a stand-up comic, which by definition means you're a writer because you're writing your own material. Yes. Unless you're a, what's his name? Carlos Mencia. Joe Rogan famously took to task.
Yes.
And I love that about you because you're doing, that's the thing that you're taking your own control of your own, you know, career, entertainment, destiny. You're not sitting around waiting for someone going, oh, I pick to cast you. I pick to put you on stage.
Yeah, I think it's
not easy.
No, but also I think it's a mistake for performers to think that they can just be talent. You can't be, you know, you have to make your own work. You have to make opportunities for yourself, for other people. I think it's the correct thing to do. And certainly like it's a better use of your time than sitting around getting rusty, waiting to get hired by somebody. It's better to just take the reins of your life into your own hands. It's a good use of your energy, I think.
Right.
Don't sit around getting nervous or anxious because you're not getting hired. Just make your own work, and then you're already hired.
You certainly haven't been sitting around.
No, I'm very exhausted.
I could say,
yeah.
I mean, the credits that jumped out to me, this is certainly not an exhaustive list of everything you've already done. That's publicly acknowledged. That's probably a lot of stuff you've done that isn't necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. It's not all on IMDb.
No.
But Funny or Die.
Yes.
BuzzFeed, the legendary SF Sketchfest. To me, I come from up in the Bay Area, Northern California, so I'm also Greg Proops. I'm a big fan of Kevin Pollak.
Got it. Yeah, Kevin's he's.
I actually saw Kevin perform. Like that was one of the few comedy shows I went to with my fiance at the time, the same fiance who somehow just never quite made it to any of my open mics.
Well, that's good. Also, don't invite your fiance to that. Open mics are soul suckers.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
If
some
we
were
don't
open
like
mics.
sitting through them.
Some were, not. To me, the point was she couldn't find a single comedy performance I was involved in
to come and support you.
Attend. Exactly.
Yeah.
So. I guess the moral I found from that is, circle your wagons with people that, support you, love you, want you to be the best you can be, and not people that, patronize you, think that, they put you in this little box that,
Yeah. Also, though, I just got to say, smart woman not going to open mic. I mean, no offense.
Yeah, none taken. They
are rough.
Sure. They are a shit show.
But I think it's important to have people in your life who care about what you do.
What I like, what you've done is you've created, you have your own show that you do monthly.
I don't anymore, actually.
Oh, okay.
I need to update my bio. But our last one after 4 years was February 22nd.
That's a good run.
Yeah, it's a very healthy run. And I've run like a bunch of other side shows, just meaning like shows that aren't my main monthly show.
Not necessarily involving carny folk.
No.
Right?
No. Excuse me. I just burped.
No worries. We all do it.
Yeah, I mean, I've run all kinds of shows and mics and stuff in the time that I've done stand up,
Which has been how long?
I'll be 5 in May.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's really cool. Mm-hmm. They say usually, this is from what I've heard.
Uh-huh.
If you're performing basically almost every night for like a decade, that's how long it takes to actually get to the point where you've dropped all the baggage of the people that you love as comedians that you inevitably in the beginning are emulating in your own way, and you find your voice and you find that kind of pocket when you're on stage where you can really be yourself with the audience. And the only way you can't go to a class, you can't have someone tell you something, you can't read a book, you literally just have to get on that stage in front of all kinds of weird, strange, scary even audiences and just put the time in, the stage time, and then figure that out. So
yeah, it takes a long time.
You got a lot of impressive credits for only being halfway through the process.
Yeah. Well, I work really hard, so that's why probably. But there's more stuff coming, hopefully. My God, I hope there's more stuff coming.
I would think that with what you already have going on, like I imagine there's people already reaching out to you saying, "Hey, can we do a show?"
Oh,
or if it hasn't, will be to replace what you've been doing for the last 4 years. That was the
gentrification.
The gentrification. Okay.
Yeah.
Thigh gap comedy.
Yes.
Talk to me about thigh gap comedy.
Thigh gap. I mean, I come from the theater, so I have this idea about like I ran a theater company for a long time, and I've been a member of several. Are
you equity?
I'm apprentice. I'm like I'm
what does that
I'm
mean?
A candidate. I'm like EMC equity membership candidate. But
okay.
I didn't.
I know the screen side. I know very little about
eligible.
The stage side.
That's all that means.
Oh, okay. So it's like SAG eligible, except
yes.
it's the okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, that's cool. That's.
Yeah, I mean, God, I haven't done a play in like 5 years or something. So
it's kind of the wrong town for it, isn't it? You really got to be in New York, right?
I mean, I did theater here for a very long time.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in a theater company, a classical theater company called the Downtown Rep, and we performed Shakespeare and Chekhov and stuff like that, Christopher Marlowe in downtown LA for about 8 years. And then, well, roughly, was it 8 years? I feel like that's not true. Maybe 6. Who knows? Many years, many plays.
At least half a decade.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, I've just been in several different theater companies. Anyways, but so Thigh Gap basically was like me and my friend Danielle Perez, who's a very funny comedian. We started together. In fact, I got her into stand up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I mean, she's my best friend. So I was like, if I'm doing this, you're going to do this too. And so we started, and I mean, we were just like, oh, like, how do we get booked? Like, what do we do? And so we just created Thigh Gap Comedy, and we're like, all right, we're going to run all of our shows through Thigh Gap Comedy. Everything we produce will be from Thigh Gap Comedy, and we'll just make it just be entirely diverse. So that's all we've ever done.
That's so cool.
So we ran that for many years, and now we're tired. We're starting a podcast, but obviously, as you know, starting a podcast is a nightmare.
It can be. There's a lot of moving parts to it.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of cool people out there that can help. Like my big sister, if you will, in podcasting. She's been on my podcast before. I've been hers. Ursilia Pompilio. She's a nurse practitioner.
Oh,
and she has the podcast, Nurses and Hypochondriacs.
Oh, yeah.
She's a great, I don't know if I mentioned her to you yet.
She's a storyteller, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she also does stand up, though. And her niece does stand up in LA too, Bailey.
She has a lot of, folks in the industry, acting and also comedy on her show. Mm-hmm. But it's, you can apparently even get, if you're a nursing student, you can actually get college credit listening to her podcast. Like she's arranged it. Yeah, it's crazy. Like you get credit hours for it.
Wow.
So yeah, but she's taught me a lot of things. She's been involved in different podcasting, how to workshops and festivals even. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's a lot of great resources I found out there. But it's a project. It's like anything else. It's like running your comedy show. It's
exactly.
There's always moving parts, and whether you do it or you delegate it, at the end of the day, it's just you got to put it all together. But
I mean, I had a podcast that failed previously last year, and one of the big things is that's why you're lucky you have Ollie, is that I'm like, oh, fuck, we could.
Well, I love Ollie and he loves me, but I pay him, and I know that's and you have to.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to,
and that's something that
that's the most time consuming part, the editing and the sound mixing. And it's like somebody loves to do this.
For our listeners right now at the gym who can't see, Ollie is about to break his neck because he's going, yes, finally someone understands and feels my pain.
I mean, I have the ability to edit my own shit. I know how to do that. I know how to upload it. I know how to market it. I know how to do this stuff. But I also work full time.
Yeah,
my comedy schedule is incredibly demanding. I audition. I write. I have a boyfriend. I have a family. I have so much going on that's it's worth it to me to pay somebody to edit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
To mix it for me, because I'm like, oh God, who has the time?
But those are some of the key decisions that you have to be in a. You have to have the capacity to be able to make and recognize, all right, this is a good use of my time and talent.
Exactly.
This is not, being able to let go and delegate, but then also find the right people who can actually do it.
Do it for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Ollie literally basically just said, you got to do a proper podcast.
Yes.
And finally.
Yeah.
Here we are, but
you're lucky.
The other thing I found too, though, is, and I want to do more of this, is be on more of other people's podcasts. So, if I was in your shoes, I'd probably be looking at all my friends who already have podcasts and go, hey, well, why haven't I been on your podcast yet? Because then that kind of helps.
It's different for shows. I'll submit to shows and stuff like that.
What kind of shows?
Like stand-up shows. I submit for. A lot of the stand-up work that I do is I've gotten for myself through submission and asking to be on shows.
Right.
All the podcasts that I've done, usually people just ask me.
Yeah.
So I don't worry too much about it. It's it comes, it ebbs, it flows.
Right.
But if I didn't do stand-up, I would probably be more active in trying to figure out how to support other people's podcasts in order to eventually get on them to then signal boost my own. But
see, to me, doing the podcast is like the fact that I'm not doing stand-up right now. It's kind of it. I can do a little bit of what I would be doing in stand-up through the podcast, and it kind of helps me to kind of connect with those of you that I love and worship and adore who actually are doing the hard work.
It's great. Podcasts are wonderful.
I love them.
Yeah, I don't know what we did before podcast.
I know, right? Well, it's basically just it's radio in your phone.
But I didn't listen to talk radio before podcast. Podcast made it so then I could listen to talk radio.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It is pretty revolutionary.
Yeah, it's great.
You don't have to sit around and with your little radio transistor sitting by the fireplace waiting for the signal to come in.
Sure. Driving around.
Right. So what would your podcast, do you have any ideas of like what it'll be called? Like
the format, I mean, like
we're
basically just looking for somebody we can hire to like edit, sound mix it.
You do this with your friend?
Danielle Perez.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. Okay.
This is what we're putting our energy into as opposed to running a show. It's like, it's better for us to run a podcast, and then through the podcast, we can figure out where people are listening and then do targeted tours and like get out on the road and
makes
do
a lot
live
of sense.
shows and stuff. So it's called Wow Rude.
Wow Rude.
Which is something we say to each other like all the time.
like wow rude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it's just us talking shit and occasionally interviewing people. And we've just been friends such a long time. Like we've been friends since I was basically a senior in high school. So
okay.
At this point, almost half my adult life or more, actually half of my life, period.
Yeah.
So it'll just be a lot of that.
Oh, cool. Well,
but
I look forward to hearing it.
Takes time.
That
trying to get it all together and get the ball rolling is
that it does.
Somebody quoted us some outrageous prices and stuff, and it's like, oh well, I guess we have to just keep looking.
Yeah, that could be a magical journey. Definitely. I'll just I'll leave it at that.
How long did it take you to start your podcast from the time you thought of the idea to then getting it?
Well, it literally was Ollie bugging me because I had this character, Lieutenant Frank, who would busk or street perform on Hollywood Boulevard, and there's a local watering hole. It's funny because like literally when I just got here today, someone like walked out that I recognized, and I know exactly where they're going after their time here at the Musicians Institute.
What bar?
Jameson's.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I know. Why are we keeping it a secret?
Yeah.
I'd meet Ollie there, and he just kept bugging me. He said, you should have your own podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a great idea, but like who, how, what, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And he's, he just kept badgering me, and I finally one day said, okay, yeah, you're right. We need to do this. So how do we do it? And we found our original situation, and then that ebbed and flowed, and Ollie came to me with a superior plan B, and I said, fuck yeah, and that brought us here. This is our current situation, and Ollie's been fucking fantastic. It's not just because he's here. I mean, the feedback I've gotten from people, especially listening from the early episodes coming to most current ones, it's great.
That's the thing. Like when you have somebody who's helping you with a podcast, it's like I can hear, like usually there comes a point in an early podcast when people first start it where they suddenly have somebody helping with the audio. And it's usually around this episode mark, like 20-ish, where people are like, okay, now we have somebody. And it's like, it makes the other ones almost unlistenable too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I want to listen to those, but I really don't have the patience to sit through really poor sound quality. So it's good to have somebody from jump.
Yeah, no, I highly recommend it. I mean, anyone, I could sit on my bed with my iPhone and talk into it, and people do.
They absolutely do.
It's just like,
wow, I've done that podcast.
It's like the open
times.
mic of,
Like
audio
literally
experiences.
somebody had like a body mic that they just plugged into their phone, and then we both just sort
Terrific.
of back and forth held it. And I'm
Right.
like, this is so interesting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like you want to create it's all about, to me, the listener. You want to create an experience that they're going to enjoy.
Yeah.
And I just, I know that from my own experience as someone who stumbled on a podcast about a decade ago, and I'm an avid listener of them. So like I have all these expectations. I just assume naturally, all right, well, if I want to hear that, I imagine people that are listening to mine, they're going to want to hear the same thing.
It's helpful.
So
it's helpful to be a consumer first before you get into doing it yourself, like of whatever field. Like you should know something about it from the audience perspective, from the
given your theater background, I would just love to see one of your future live shows be like a cross between like a panel, like what Marin would do, or just grab a bunch of buddy comics on stage and you kind of go back and forth, and it's like an extended Carson couch type thing.
Right.
But go beyond that and have a little bit of the the Garrison Keillor Prairie Home Companion, where you've got I mean, that takes more budget. Yeah,
they have money.
Potentially. But I don't know. I just see someone like you with your background, like that's a potential thing that you and your partner might have fun with.
I love theater, but I don't, it's not where my heart is anymore. You know what I mean? So I don't think, I'm still so myopic about stand-up and comedy. It's almost hard to like bring in elements of my theater background into that right now. Maybe in the future.
Fair enough.
Because it takes so much to get good at this, It takes a lot. So it's hard.
Explain.
It just takes a lot of like time, and you have to give a lot up, and you have to risk a lot, and personal relationships sort of fall by the wayside.
I was going to ask, your current boyfriend, is he in the industry?
He is not.
Okay.
No. But he's very, he has a very busy and fulfilling life. And so we see each other like on the weekends.
You got boundaries.
It's great.
Right on.
If there's something in the week that I'm like, I have a big, something.
Right.
He'll come to that, if there's a big show or an event or something. But it makes it a lot easier to like do all of the things that I need to get done.
How long have you guys?
We've been dating about 6 months now.
Okay. That's the magic point of, all right, are we going to keep doing this? So it sounds like you got a good...
Yeah, I'm lucky.
That's important if you're going to have someone. Like I have no one in my life right now simply because like I know what I want to do, and like I feel like I can't have even like a second of distraction.
Yeah, unless you can have somebody who's literally like, I see you on Saturdays. You know what I mean? Or whatever the day of the week is.
And I'm not yet attracting that type of person. So I clearly, there's a lot of work I have to do on me.
I just stumbled upon this one. Thank you, Tinder.
That's awesome. Yeah, right? Oh my God.
Thanks, Tinder.
There's this service called, have you heard of Talkify?
Yes.
Okay.
I think.
They bill themselves as a matchmaking service.
Oh, yes. I do know this.
Okay.
Yeah. They were like, we want like creative people on it and stuff. And I was like, pfft. Did you like it? How did that turn out for you?
Well, as I understand it, like they have a pricing model. So like if you actually become a member, like you pay, I think it's like several $100 for like a 6-month or 12-month.
Oh, I don't need love that bad.
Exactly. But people do.
Yeah.
So, but apparently, and I guess I should feel flattered that like I'm like one of their, their comp people that
nice.
They're like, well, you bring value. So we'll just kind of, so like they've approached me 4 or 5 times.
Sounds like a podcast sponsor.
Here's why they won't be.
Okay.
Is because I've already talked about them on the podcast.
Okay. It hasn't been positive.
They reached out to me again, and I'm talking about it again today, in like the last week. And I'm at the gym, and I'm just like trying to like stop from fuming because I'm like, I think someone who just rolled the dice from their Dungeons and Dragons game and decided, all right, the sixth person, I rolled a 6. Okay, I'm on Tinder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, swipe right on that one.
Yeah.
That is going to be more informed than the average quote matchmaker that's allegedly paid at Talkify. Because I had to like ask this person, like, do you even know who I am? Have you even listened to my podcast? Like, do you know anything about me before you match me with this person that you think is great for me because they're in my industry?
Yeah.
And 3 days goes by. She finally texts me today. Oh, yeah. So I listened to your podcast, and yeah, I think she's really conservative. I don't think she'd be a good match for you. And I'm like, what? It took you 3 days to figure that. Like, all you have to do is like look at my Twitter for like nanoseconds, and I'm just like. I'm just floored, but then I'm also thinking, well, crap. Apparently, I should like be in the dating business. I can say, "Hi, I'm Mark. I'm a matchmaker. Here, give me $99. I got a special."
Yeah, I don't know what the qualifications are for that.
There's none. Clearly, I know that when it comes to Talkify.
Yes, probably all of them.
Oh my God, it's
yeah.
It's like it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean Tinder. Shout out.
It worked out. It was simple.
Yeah.
They got a logarithm. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but
yeah, and I mean that's life anyways though.
Right?
You know, with dating, it's always like that.
Well, I'm happy for you because that's a key support group to have in. Did you know Brody at all?
I did not. But I started comedy in LA, so I very much was around him often.
Yeah.
Like
so you didn't know him personally.
I didn't know him personally, but he was always like he died on like a Wednesday or Thursday, and I was at a show that he was on on Tuesday. Like I just seen him like hours before. Took a picture of him and like the host for, you know what I mean? Like I had seen him just days before. And before I did comedy, I dated a few comedians, and so I would go with them to the store and I would see Brody there. Or I'd go with them to shows like outside the clubs and see him there. So he's always kind of just been around in terms of comedy.
Yeah.
Which is why you saw comics like from like baby open micers to like vets, like lifer vets talking about his effect on comedy, on people. Because he was just always around, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So yeah, didn't know him, but it's a weird thing when comedians die. That's why it's been a hard couple of like 6 months or something, because we've lost so many folks. Even if I don't know them directly, I can literally pick up the phone right now and talk to somebody who knew them personally.
Yeah.
I've been on shows with them. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Where it's a small community and we all kind of
felt
know each other. So when we lose one, it's like a loss for all of us.
It's one of the tribe, you know? Yeah. Yeah, because I never met him and I haven't been in the comedy scene here lately. So, you know, I wouldn't know him.
Yeah.
But like everyone who's a friend, who's a comedian does, because, you know, they're just like you. They're like, you know, they get off stage and he's getting on. Yeah. Or he's in the green room, or he's, you know, waiting in the back, watching who's on stage right now, or what have you. I mean, it's, as stand-up comics, like it seems like the people that choose to be stand-up comics, that we're drawing from some well of pain, and we somehow find a way to turn that pain into, you know, this lovely diamond of laughter for strangers.
Yes.
And, you know, maybe it's therapy for us, maybe it's, who knows, a combination of things, but kind of feel like we're on the front lines of a mental health conversation that we really are yet to have as a culture. Is that what you...
Yeah, I think so.
about
I
that?
think there's also more accessible mental health resources out there. Like you can use an
Than there
app
were in
on
the
your
past.
phone and like literally call a therapist. Like on your app, you can see a therapist on a video app on your phone for like $50 a month. You know, a lot of those like time and financial barriers that are in the way for people to seek treatment. It's breaking down. I think that it feels very dark still in terms of mental health stuff in this country.
Sure.
It doesn't help that we have a president who is the way he is and saying the things that he's saying, which is upsetting. And it's upsetting for several reasons, including because of him, but also how it affects all of us on the world at large, you know?
It's like an extra layer.
Yeah.
It's funny because people I'll be busking as either Lieutenant Frank or Captain American, you know, tourists will be in Hollywood and they'll see, you know, yet another person that either is mentally ill and or has a substance abuse issue and or a combination of that. And they're doing crazy shit. And they kind of look like, well, wow, what's that? What's going on? And I look at them and I say, welcome to Hollywood. Thank Governor Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
This is the legacy. Continues. Which is weird because as a kid, I was this rabid Reagan Republican.
Right. Well, you didn't
here
know.
in California. So it's, I don't know, it's an interesting legacy that continues.
Yeah.
There's, because you're right, there are apps for people who know to do that.
Yeah.
And are in a place, a presence of mind. I mean, I have a friend of mine I know from the mortgage industry who's still homeless right now, Venka. And she's kind of gathered a few people around her to help each other out. And she's been trying to raise $50,000 on a GoFundMe for the last 6 months. She's at like $4,500 now. And she had a stroke, wasn't diagnosed. So like she's literally homeless. She's got a really old car that's a gas guzzler that's about to fall apart and just die. And that's,
That's it.
And then food stamps, it's like she's got these issues with her brain. There's certain diets she needs to have.
Yeah.
And that involves warm meals. Well, she doesn't have a kitchen.
Yeah.
So it's like there's all these like logistical issues.
Correct.
It's interesting how some municipalities are actually, oddly enough, in places like Utah, I'm hearing, are discovering that, wow, if you literally just start with house someone and then all the other problems we can get to after that. I don't know. It's just,
we have a real
interesting.
issue in Los Angeles and California at large. It's in fact,
it's been getting worse, like day by day.
Yesterday, this kid I went to high school with was begging on Beverly in Vermont, and he averted eye contact with me. I've seen him before many times. He was my friend.
Wow.
We briefly dated, and it's like now he's like currently in that situation, and it's how do I? And I know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
He's an addict. He has mental health issues. What can be done? You know, and I know that that's not a unique story. I know there's many people with many stories similar to that. And I certainly come from a background I was housing insecure for many years when I first moved to Los Angeles, living in hotels all over Hollywood before it was what it is now.
Yeah. A lot of those options aren't available anymore.
Correct. A lot of them have been torn down, or now they don't offer that service, a weekly rate, you know, where you could stay there for 6 weeks and then you'd have to leave for a day and come back. They don't do that anymore.
I spent a few nights waiting for my train at Union Station. You can't do that anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's changed quite a bit. I keep putting my mouth on the mic and it's like so gross to me. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I mean, we have, I would love to be optimistic to say that it's getting better, but I don't see it getting better. I see it getting worse, especially like in Hollywood, in the city of Los Angeles. You just see it. It's not being addressed. And it's mental health, and it's housing, and it's food, and it's all of those things.
Preaches, sister.
I don't know how to fix it. I didn't cause
is.
this problem, but I don't know how to fix it either.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think talking about it helps.
It helps.
I love the cleverness with how you, in your comedy, you share very real issues that when you make a joke about something, it makes people think. I feel like it gives space where, I mean, even if it's a nervous laughter, but, you know, not every time, but sometimes people go like, huh.
I would rather somebody laugh at my joke and then on the way home think about it, or a week later kind of like click in their mind, and it's like,
because it's not a confrontation. It's almost like a tease.
I'm not trying to force people into anything, but
that's the elegance of stand-up comedy.
Yeah, I am going to make them think about it at some point. They'll think back
Damn
to it. Yeah.
I love that. Because I relate to that very much. It's like, maybe it won't change the world, but it might.
Yeah.
Worst case, you know, we all had a chuckle today and took our mind off the gross, horrific shit that
Yes.
is around us.
Yeah.
I wish we could do another hour of this, but for people that want to hear your stand-up comedy, you got a couple shows coming up here, right?
Yeah, I do. I don't have. When does this come out?
This will be dropping on Monday, so that's what's today, 20th,
Okay.
the 25th. Yeah.
All right. I'm just
25th.
looking.
I see you have a date. I think I want to say on the 28th, and then you also got something.
I
early April.
literally have not updated my calendar on my website, so if you just give me a second, I'll pull something up. Oh my God.
That is quite all right. So
I'm going to be at the Comedy Central stage on the 28th.
Nice.
At 8 or something like that. And then I'll be at the Ruby on the 29th. I'll be in Long Beach on Saturday the 30th. I'm sure there are other dates here that, oh, wait, there's one. I'll be at the Pack Theater on the 5th of April.
Nice.
I am terrible about the business of comedy, which is updating my website. But I promise between now and Monday, all dates will be on my website. Fuck,
Awesome.
I keep, like,
and it's all
bumping
right.
my face against the mic. As if I've
You're
never...
the only entertainer ever on planet Earth that's ever had a very intimate relationship with a microphone.
What? Coming up in open mics, I never want to put my lips on a mic because I'm just like, who has talked into this?
Fortunate for you, we've had very few comics in here, and the ones we have been on Conan and Amazon. And
They're still
you got a show on
dirty.
Amazon.
I'm Jack on Empty Space, which is now streaming on Amazon Prime. You can watch that. I have some Comedy Central cartoons.
Yeah, you're an animator.
I didn't animate it. I
you
just
didn't animate. Okay.
wrote them and
So you wrote the
created
story.
them. Yeah.
Still, that's awesome. On Comedy Central Digital.
Yeah, you can
That's
find them
so
on their
cool.
Facebook page.
And then your dates and also links to all this stuff is at your website, which is
TheMadisonShepard.com.
I love that because I'm the Mark Roman on the Twitter.
Because somebody else had Mark Roman, right?
But it gives you an opportunity to pivot and go, okay, well, I'm the
one
you
to know. Yeah.
And I feel like you're definitely a the, not just.
I'm the only Madison
Yes.
Shepard of note.
Yes. Like we just got to clear the decks and make it real clear
Yes.
off the top. What's going on here, kids? Well, Madison, it's been great to get to know you here.
Yeah,
and I
thanks
look
for
forward to
having
seeing.
me.
My pleasure. Well, and I'd love to have more. Like I said, I'm not in the thick of the LA comedy scene right now, and I know there's a lot of great comics in this town.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know of other comics that you think would be great on this podcast that aren't, more white dudes like me, not that there's anything wrong with us, but it's just like, I want to have.
Well, you should have a 50-50 split of men and women on your show.
Well, and we didn't even get to the fact that, you're like Obama.
I'm mixed, yes.
And who knows how many of us actually are. Like, I know I've got Spanish in me from Spain. Mm-hmm. So, like, how we describe that? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Because that came over to Mexico. So, like, what's the difference between Spanish and Mexican? I know Spaniards and Mexicans have a huge
history there. That
Sure,
I'm
but
not entirely positive about. But
maybe I'm mulatto.
Well, mulatto's not really a good term to use.
Why? Help me.
Mulatto,
teach me here.
Mulatto is a phrase that's like, I use it jokingly as like my bio on Twitter and on my website.
So this is like the N-word, but not quite.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Because mulatto was when
deep
black
apologies,
people,
everyone.
That's fine. But I'll
I'm
explain
yet
it to
another
you.
white guy who just stepped in it.
You're fine. So a lot of people don't know this, but when black people were property, the way that they would be like listed on an inventory would be like Negro male 1, Negro female 2, mulatto, octoroon. So mulatto meant half black and half white, which indicates slave rape. And octoroon would mean
Wow,
like that
of
it was
course,
like a
yeah.
lesser version of that. And so that's how they would be listed on the inventory along with the chickens and the cows and the pigs. So that's why mulatto isn't a good term to use. However, some people are fine with it. I know in parts of Europe it's okay, but in America it's not a good thing to say. So that's
based on what you
that.
just told me, part of which I already kind of knew, but I didn't know. I'm ashamed of myself that I didn't know well enough. No, I should. That's it. It's like, I don't know. Like if I grew up in Germany, there's some things about, the 30s and 40s I should be really clear on.
Right.
And I'll have to own because that's the country I grew up in. Same thing here. There's a lot in our history of America that we really need to know and be aware of. Like I'm reading, the People's History of the United States, and that's
a good book, I'm told. I haven't read it.
a complete different version than what I was taught in school.
Yeah, it changes your mind about a lot of stuff. But
Raises a lot of questions.
yes,
that
we
are
were
good
sold
to
a bill
ask.
of goods about the history of this country. It's part of the indoctrination and patriotism, and that's how they keep us under their thumb, right? So
True story.
it's okay. Don't worry about it. And a lot of people don't know that. Don't feel like guilt about it or anything. I release you of guilt about not knowing
Well, I
about
appreciate it,
mulatto.
but I recognize and take responsibility for the fact that I should know better. And you see that, but this gets solved in conversation.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of shoulds.
But if you're
right?
not here, we can't have the conversation.
Oh, true.
So, I don't know. I just
50-50. That's who you should have 50-50 men and women on your podcast. And then from there, pick from diverse folks and you'll be all right.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like when you try to like literally put a label on someone like racially, when you start breaking down like the DNA and the history, it's like it gets really problematic really quick because it's like, well, you're not 100% this or that. Like we're all
it's almost like white.
this mixture.
It's almost like white supremacy is not real and everyone is a little bit of something else.
It's almost like the Matrix. Like there's
I never saw The Matrix, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
This
Well, I
will
can't
be lost
spoil it
on
for
me.
you then. I can't
You know
spoil
what? If I haven't seen The Matrix in 20 years since it's been out, I think, that's on me.
I think it's either Amazon or Netflix.
Okay.
This is streaming. Yeah, it's pretty intense, especially like the first one, because there's a lot that gets revealed in that. But yeah, there's this narrative of what white is, and I feel like the reality is that what white is portrayed and what it actually is two different things, and it just becomes this device for people to control other human beings.
Yes.
Which is insane and evil, but people do it.
Yes, very
People do
much
it.
so.
That's why we have to do stand-up comedy to help us all endure it.
Yes.
Madison, I'm so glad to have you on.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
My pleasure, and I'm looking forward to your future podcast endeavors
Oh my gosh. Well, me too.
and our productions.
Yes. Same.
All right, Madison.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for being on.
Thanks.
Talk to you soon. Madison Shepard. She was awesome. Really glad to have her on. Great to get to know her, kind of like how I got to know Granison. Just jump into the podcast. Why not meet there? Anyway, she's got a lot of cool stuff coming up. Be sure to check her website, themadisonshepard.com, for everything that's coming up. And remember, you spell her name. She has a singular effective P in that Shepard. So it's Shepard. No extra P, no H parachuting in from France. None of that's necessary. Madison, like you'd think. Shepard, Shepard. She was awesome. I'm really looking forward to seeing her podcast. It'd be cool to have some theatrical stuff going on in it. Hey, any links and to some of the different stuff that we mentioned throughout the podcast are on the show are all at MarkRomanEmpire.com. Thanks to all our listeners across the globe. I see you, Auckland, New Zealand, Fontana, California, and Clifton, New Jersey. Venka and Will, a.k.a. Will and Grace, They still need our help. They are still homeless. Can you hero tier? Read my article about them on Medium. It's called Meet the Cap of Will and Grace. And go to MarkRomanEmpire.com and click Venka to learn more. You can listen to the podcast now on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to rate and review on Apple Podcasts, formerly known as iTunes. Thank you to the 8 of you who already have. It really does help the podcast grow. You can hear it also on Mixcloud, Podbean, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. MarkRomanEmpire.com. Click listen for all the options. To avoid missing out on cool stuff, join my mailing list, the Mark Roman Empire Census. Hey, sometimes we have special deals and perks for podcast citizens. Don't miss out on that stuff. Become a citizen. Go to MarkRomanEmpire.com. Click Census. Twitter at the Mark Roman. Instagram at Mark Roman Empire for the podcast, at Vegas 90210 for Lieutenant Frank and the other characters. Email your questions to me at romanpodmail@gmail.com, and I might answer them on the podcast. Maybe you could be the first one to do so. Sorry, guys. Hey, it's been like a month since I've done the podcast, so if I don't seem to be completely on my A game, it's like I'm back on the mic here, and it's good. It feels good. I'm really glad to be back. This is really awesome. I hope we can do more. You guys heard the messages. You got to help me out here. All right? I don't have that MMA Fear Factor money, so if you guys like the podcast, you know what you do. Get some swag. You can get on the Cash App using my code. You can hire Lieutenant Frank. Just don't be like the guy who literally just hired me through Gig Salad today as I'm walking in to do the podcast, and they want me to drive to Rancho Cucamonga in like 2 hours. Like, really? Seriously? Anyway, that's like, I think I'd charge 5 times my rate for that. So don't be that guy, okay? Give me some advance notice here a little bit, all right? Otherwise, don't be surprised when I charge through the nose like I'm Jerry Seinfeld or something, okay? I'm not Jerry Seinfeld. I think we knew that. Until next week, hey, how can you hero tier for Venka's Will and Grace? Remember Clownolin and Prince St. Paul. I am the Mark Roman.